Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Thank you, Bab. We only played him. We played Greenwood twice. They beat us in the state championship game in Williams-Brice Stadium, and then we played a playoff game here in Somerville, and we won. So, but he always had real tough kids, and they were a tough opponent.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome back into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on another hot Wednesday afternoon in South Carolina. Hope you've been able to make it through the day. This is the kind of day that for the weaker person, you wouldn't even want to play golf. Now, not me. I love playing golf when it's 100+ degrees, makes the club slip through the air much more aerodynamically, and a little bit of perspiration on the arms and the forehead, and a little sweat in the shirt. Feels good on the golf course. But I'm sure for a lot of you out of there, especially those of you who have invaded our fine state from the north, that you just can't take it. Can't take the heat. You can't take the humidity. You know what I say to you? If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. That's what we're all about here in South Carolina, dealing with the heat. And this is just June. Mm-hmm. Wait to July, baby, and then August.
And then they'll ask you to come up to their environs in January and see how you dance with the cold.
Right. All right. We have got another great show for you tonight here on Sports Talk. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Bill McDonald, USC golf coach, will join us from where I guess it's not nearly as hot as it is here. You know, you watch the U.S. Open some years and where they're playing, they are cooking out there. But they're playing in Northwest America for the first time. First time the Open has gone to this part of the country, up around Puget Sound near Seattle. But the golf course itself is an absolute bear, and we'll be interested to get Bill's take on what he has seen. This is a course that has been set up like a links course, fescue grass on the fairways and the greens, no rough around the greens, so that the golfers, they will have special markings on the fairway to show the golfers where the fairway ends and where the greens begin. I mean, it's a really strange setup that the USGA has put together. A lot of complaining already about the greens and about the setup of the golf course. Some of the golfers saying that bad shots are getting rewarded because of the way the golf course is. The ball is going to roll a lot. You're going to play it sort of like you would play a British Open course, like St. Andrews, which is coming up in July for the British Open. You're going to play this course probably very similar to that.
It's a links course.
It is a links course. There's one tree. There's one tree on the course.
There's the problem. Most Americans, you're going to hear the first complaint. They go to the wide shot. This course is ugly. They'll talk about the esoteric stuff about it. It's not beautiful. Where are the greens? Where are the trees?
Well, you know what was there 15 years ago before they built the course?
A dump.
Yeah, an old landfill and mining area, and they turned it into a beautiful golf course around the bay. We'll be back in just a moment. All right, back on Sports Talk. If you'd like to join us tonight, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We are open-minded for your calls tonight. Open Mind Wednesday. You've heard of open lines? This is Open Mind. Open Mind Wednesday here on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266. Email talkback at sportstalksc.com. On Twitter at sportstalksc. Website is sportstalksc.com. And on Facebook, it's Sports Talk Radio Network. We'll have a recruiting report coming up for you a little bit later on. And Bill McDonald from out in Washington State at the U.S. Open, he'll give us his take on the course. And, of course, he's got some Gamecocks out there, and he's watching the other South Carolina connections as well. There's some Tigers playing in the event, too. Not just Tiger, but some Clemson Tigers. So we'll get his take on all that coming up in a little bit. If you haven't had a chance yet, go to our website and vote on our poll question of the week. Who will be the ACC's best quarterback in 2015? 47% are saying Deshaun Watson. 20% are saying Everett Golson. 17% are saying Justin Thomas from Georgia Tech. If you haven't voted yet, get over there and do so.
I say the best quarterback next year in the ACC will be the quarterback with the best offensive line.
Well, yeah, that usually helps. That usually helps. Somebody has written in a vote, Cardale Jones. Okay, well, this isn't the Big Ten we're talking about. We're talking about the ACC here, but nice try. Way to waste your time by writing in somebody that doesn't even play in the league. If you haven't voted yet, get over there and do so at our website, sportstalksc.com. Update a couple of stories for you this afternoon. Monty Lee and Clemson, according to a source talking with us this afternoon, the signing of a contract has not yet happened. It's pretty close, and this has already been reported for the most part. The major terms relating to length of contract and salary, all that's been agreed to. The two sides are still trying to work out those pesky little final details. So that's what's going on now. As of late this afternoon, still trying to iron all that out. These are not expected to cause any problems with Clemson moving forward with Lee, who, of course, is expected to replace Jack Leggett and retain Bradley LaCroix for his new staff. Source tells us Lee is of a mind that he'd like to also bring his pitching coach from Charleston with him, Matt Heath, but Heath could be a candidate to replace him as the Cougars head coach. So that is it's very close to getting done, as you are certainly already aware, but that is just the latest from this afternoon that we have come up with. Former USC offensive lineman A.J. Cann signed his contract with the Jaguars today, worth a little more than $3 million for its 4-year run. Signing bonus of $800,000. Of course, the entire thing is not guaranteed, but the $800,000 signing bonus is guaranteed. So not bad for A.J. Cann getting his deal.
AJ. This is the IRS calling.
Yeah. Meantime, not such good news for USC. Former USC offensive lineman Ronald Patrick, as he was cut today by the Carolina Panthers. Alabama freshman running back Desharius Flowers. He enrolled in school at midterm in January, went through spring practice, took classes, the whole deal, and now he's been declared ineligible for the fall. Alabama said Flowers will not be enrolled this fall due to a recently discovered initial eligibility issue.
Ooh.
So he gets into school, takes classes. Here's the thing. Okay, I don't know what the eligibility issue is. Don't know what it is. But if he's in school and he's doing successful college work, if he had a successful semester of college work in the classes that you laid out for him, where's the problem? Where is the problem? He's in school doing the work. He's proving he can do the work. Why the red flag?
I have no idea. Unless they think the NCAA come back, look over it. How did this guy get into school? Yeah, I'm with you on that because I remember I think it was Andrew Pinnock had to sit out a few games because people had a problem with his freshman English course. Now that's a 9th grade English course. He's got his diploma, and y'all complaining about his eligibility over ninth grade English.
This is pretty stupid, pretty stupid. Also want to tell you that the NCAA committee today, or the Collegiate Commissioners Association, the group that oversees the letter of intent program, tabled a recommendation to establish an early signing period in football. The recommendation was developed by a working group established last June by the CCA, and that called for the establishment of a football early signing period beginning the third Wednesday in December and lasting 72 hours. It coincides with the current signing period for junior college mid-year transfers. They're going to pick it back up again, the discussion. They're going to pick it back up again in June of 2016. I'm of the belief now it's time for an early signing period, but not December. I'm saying summertime. Let's do it in July before we get to practice in August. All these kids are visiting. There's not a top prospect out there, hardly. There may be some, but by and large, there's not a top prospect out there who's not getting around to see his schools in some form or fashion and meeting with the coaches and working out and taking a look at the academic stuff, pretty much getting it all done. Why not get it done now? And you know what? Eliminate official visits and save money. Say, if you did away with official visits, think of the money you could save. Official visits are pretty much a waste of time now, because like South Carolina and Clemson, they have their big official visit weekend now in January where they bring in all the guys. Well, they're already 95% of them are already committed. So, and they've already been on campus, and they've already done all the things you're going to do by and large on an official visit. Just eliminate all that, save the money, have a July signing date, and get it done and move on. And if a guy wants to sign and lock it down and be done with it, he runs the risk, of course, of things changing with the particular school after the season, coaching changes, things of that nature. But that's the case even when you sign in February, because we all know that the colleges and the coaches withhold their intentions to leave until after signing day. And so there are changes even then. So it really doesn't matter. So I would say if you're going to do an early signing day, do an early signing day.
Here's the question, though. Because there are some kids that go alone, but isn't the official visit as much for the parent as it is for because I mean,
they meet with the parents in home. They do that, when they have in-home visits.
But the parents want to come to the campus. You know that.
Well, a lot of them go in the summer. I was covering South Carolina summer camp on Saturday, and not every player, but a lot of the players had a parent or both parents with them coming out of the stadium. Same thing at Clemson. So, I don't see any reason why we can't go ahead and do this thing in July and get it done, because this is where the recruiting activity has mostly shifted. They're already working. By the time the football season rolls around, they're fully working on the 2017 guys now.
Here's the case in point, though. Have people ever sat down and just given you a reason why they don't want the early signing period? Now, here's some mine I come up with. First, they'll throw the injury. Throw that out the window. Anybody can get injured. Here's the deal. Some people, I think, especially football coaches, is an athlete always has to be on the edge. So I want to see that senior year. He's bigger, stronger, faster. He's more mature. But I haven't really closed the deal on him yet. Now, is he going to play with as much sense of urgency if he's got the letter of intent in his back pocket, that if he still has that chance that he won't get to this team? I just think psychologically some football coaches love that the guy is still on the edge as a senior. I don't know.
Well, the high school coach wants him on edge. Unfortunately, some of them lose that edge after they get that commitment done. Be right back. right, Braves and Red Sox, they have shifted locations. They're at Turner Field tonight. They'll continue their interleague series. One game, College World Series tonight, elimination game, Florida and Miami. Rematch of their Saturday game. Florida pounded Miami 15-3 in that one. To the phones we go, and we welcome in John in Hilton Head. Man, I'd love to change places with you and have my little toes in the water, though I'd be looking out for those sharks that are in North Carolina. Hopefully not headed our way. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing fine. You ever see any sharks there off the coast of Hilton Head?
I hadn't seen any yet.
Good. That's good news.
I'm a North Carolinian by I've talked to you fellows a couple of times. I was a freshman non-scholarship walk-on at North Carolina basketball back in the early 60s. And I moved down here to Hilton Head after I retired. I can tell you that the temperature on the golf course is a lot cooler and more refreshing than it is anywhere else down here.
You get those breezes blowing in. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of bring you up to date on what the latest is on the North Carolina NCAA situation. But before I do, you have covered a good bit of recruiting basketball-wise with Coach Martin's program at Carolina.
Yeah.
And since I retired and moved down here in the state and all, I've become really interested in the Carolina and the Clemson programs and also the college or Charleston programs. And I was wondering if you had any kind of an update on both the Clemson and the College of Charleston programs at this point, as far as any recruiting in basketball.
Well, I mean, their classes are done, and Clemson. Let me pull up my information here so I can know exactly what I'm talking about. Tigers did the unusual thing to some degree by taking a couple of transfers in this class, a couple of guys that won't help them this year but will help them in the future. And Shelton Mitchell is one. He is a former standout guard in high school in North Carolina and went to Vanderbilt and played 1 year. And then the Tigers also have point guard Ty Hudson coming in. They have a center, 7-foot center named Legend Robertine coming in. And they have another transfer guard who is transferring in from Robert Morris.
Now, Robertine is from England, right?
He is from England. That's right. So, those are the guys that they have committed. Looks like a pretty good class, but Ty Hudson comes with a lot of
promise.
Yeah, a lot of positive ink about him. He apparently is a very good player. And I mentioned, Mitchell and the other transfer guard. Tigers will have 3 transfer guards in their program because they've got a guard becoming eligible this year who transferred in from San Francisco. So, John, if you want to hang on for a minute, we'll get back to you after the break and let you give a quick update on the North Carolina situation. And then Bill McDonald will join us from out in Washington State, the U.S. Open. He's going to be our eyes and ears on the Open this year. He volunteered. We're not paying him. Back in a moment. All right, we'll catch up with Bill McDonald out at the U.S. Open in just a moment, but let's bring John back up from Hilton Head very quickly so he can give us his quick take on the North Carolina deal. By the way, Marquise Reed was that other transfer player I was thinking of for Clemson, and your College of Charleston signees are James Bourne, 6'8", transfer from Winthrop, Jarrell Brantley, 6'7", from Massachusetts, a prep school, Peyton Hulsey, 6'5", from Eastern Florida State Junior College. Marquise Pointer, a good point guard from Jonesboro, Arkansas. And Grant Ryler, a shooting guard from Ocoee, Florida. So there you go with that. Now, real quick, what's your latest on North Carolina?
Well, everybody knows about the NCAA letter being received by the university. I think the main thing at this point is the Southern Association, Accreditation Association of Universities and Colleges. This was a very, very issue of concern for all of us and the university too, of course, as far as how this might play in some kind of accreditation issues. They have made the decision not to issue any kind of sanctions or negative reports on UNC's accreditation. They have not found at this point any real substantive issues there that they feel like have damaged the educational accreditation process there. But they are leaving it open. This was a year which they were supposed to renew accreditation, 2015. My understanding is they are leaving it open sometime in the next 12 to 24 months in case any kind of other issues surface from the NCAA activity going on.
All right, John, I got one word for you as we let you go.
Probation.
Guilty. I got 3 words for you. Guilty as charged. Thank you, John. We appreciate that. Look out for those Sharks down in Hilton Head. Out to Washington State we go, near Seattle, where it rains like every day out there, right? Doesn't it rain every afternoon in Seattle? We welcome in Bill McDonald, USC golf coach, who's out there watching his guys and everybody else getting ready for the Open. All right, so I've heard plenty of griping about Chambers Bay already. Is it legit?
I think you could say some critical things of it. It's borderline. I'll put it that way. I walked with one of the architects yesterday, and he called it links golf on steroids. It's very penal. If you don't hit it in the right spots, you're going to see a lot of really good golf shots get rewarded this week. It does give you room to drive the ball, which is a little different, obviously, for U.S. Open. But if you don't have control of your distances, and if you can't hit the right kind of shot into some of these greens, you're going to see balls just going everywhere.
Yeah, British Open kind of feel to it. Would you I remember a few years ago when Tiger knew how to play the game, he won a British Open by running a lot of balls up on the green. That sort of approach, not trying the high drop shot, but running them up. You're going to see a lot of that, you think?
Mm-hmm. Well, a few of the holes let you do that, but quite a few don't let you at all. You bring it in from the air, and you don't see. There's a tremendous amount of elevation change here as well. Just number 9, par 3, for example, plays 35 yards downhill. So while it will look on TV like a links style course, the TV might not do the justification to just how much elevation change you have, and how there. A lot of links golf has been flat spots in the front of greens, and you can use the ground. I would say 90% of the holes out here don't allow you to do that.
Saw some pictures of some greens. They didn't look all that good early in the week. Looked kind of browned out, burnt out, however you want to put it. Any improvement, or is that just how they're going to be? Well,
I got here on Sunday and came out with Matt Neesmith on Sunday afternoon, and they were they were in danger of losing the course at that point. Everything was brown,
Mm-hmm.
and they've been watering nonstop at night, I believe. And you can see some green coming back, and but it's a seaside fescue that is a different kind of grass. It's only in 2 or 3 places in the U.S. Matt was able to play with Rory McIlroy this morning, and he was nice enough to. He was really, really great to Matt, by the way. But he said that the grass was similar to what they have in England and Scotland and all. So yeah, it looks bad. It actually cuts better than it looks. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty quick, and right now we've had more or less drought conditions out here, from what I understand. I mean, it's pretty much been cloudless and sunny ever since I've gotten out here.
Mm-hmm. Temperature-wise, what's it like?
Low 80s.
Oh.
So it's yeah. I know it's pretty warm back there. So it's been real pleasant. It's a little bit of a marine layer in the morning, but not. It burns off pretty quickly, and the weather's been fantastic. And these people in the state of Washington are loving that.
Hey, I think we're getting a little. I think I just saw a little shot of Matt in the background. They've got a little video of McIlroy on ESPN teeing off on one of the holes in their practice round today. Might have gotten a look. Did Neesmith get into McIlroy's wallet at all today in their practice round?
Well, it was Justin Rose and McIlroy and Hunter Mahan, and we thought at first they had a game going, but it was, as you know, Phil, NCAA rules don't allow us to gamble. So,
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
We don't
shouldn't.
We don't promote.
We don't. Shouldn't have even gone there with that. Did I just see a train going by is there a railroad track that goes by one of the tee boxes?
I'm actually looking at it right now. It's to the right of 14, that stretch 14, 15, 16, all that. It's right along the Puget Sound. They don't have the trains running during they quit. They were running on Monday, and I think they saw 1 or 2 yesterday, but haven't seen any today.
Okay. I was about to say a good golfer would get the train schedule, and if he had to bounce it off one of the cars, he would do it. As far as the way you describe the course, it seems that there's no advantage or disadvantage for starting early on the course or late.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, you actually had some breeze out here in the morning, which typically you don't see, but it's so open. This is an old sand and gravel quarry. There really aren't any trees anywhere. And we had pretty good wind this morning when Matt played. I'm actually out on the course right now with Mark Silvers on the back nine, and it's blowing less right now out here at almost 4 o'clock our time than it is than it was this morning.
Yeah, I'm looking at the weather forecast right now, and they're showing out your way. They're showing 74, 75 degrees. No chance of rain. Looks like you're going to miss all that, at least as it's going to be in the 50s tomorrow morning when guys start teeing off. That's going to be interesting. What's your plans for watching things? You're going to follow your guys? You're going to try and get around the course? What's your plans?
Well, that's a great question, because this place is not really designed well for spectators. They've more or less made it impossible for you to follow a group in its entirety. Maybe a few holes here and there. They've got a lot of grandstands, and they're trying to funnel people. When you'll see it on TV and all, you'll see all these big humps and moguls and mounds and stuff to the sides of the holes, and they've got those blocked off. So tomorrow's going to be an adventure. I've been able to be inside the ropes since Sunday, and I've just been full rotten. I've been able to go anywhere I wanted, and that all changes tomorrow morning. I'm going to be back with the regular folks and fighting to get a look at Mark and Matt.
All right, good luck to everybody out there, and we'll ring you up tomorrow, get your thoughts on how things are coming along for everybody, not just your Gamecocks, but I'm sure you'll be watching the guys with South Carolina ties throughout the tournament, so we'll get your thoughts on that as well.
Absolutely.
Coach, thank you so much. Enjoy yourself out there on the West Coast.
Well, the interesting thing is, even though the trains aren't running, if you have one of those balls running into the – I like to see somebody knock it out of one of the rails if it's stuck on the track.
My guess is you get a free drop. If your ball runs up on the railroad track, my guess is that you would get probably a local rule. That's a public course, and you probably get a free drop from that. Back in a moment. Everett Golson just scored a touchdown against Clemson. Ooh. It's time for our Braves Report, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union, helping South Carolinians attain their financial goals by mattress by appointment. Real simple. You call, you save 50 to 80% on premium mattress sets. And call 803-816-0577. And by Play It Again Sports off Bower Parkway in Columbia, where you pay less for more. Mike Morgan, joins us now on Sports Talk with our Braves reports. Braves and Red Sox Red Sox. I should be professional here. Set aside all personal hatred for a particular team. Braves and Red Sox moving their series to a Turner Field tonight. And we welcome in Mike Morgan for the report and the preview on tonight's game. Mike, take it away.
Tomahawk chop. Nice. You did a little Braves sort of state thing.
Yeah, just sort of getting in the mood for football.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Nice touch.
Thank you.
Braves getting ready, trying to quiet the storm a little bit. The storm has been just playing some bad baseball of late. Take one in Fenway and then give it right back. On top of that, Christian Bethencourt gets demoted just a few days ago, and then now the latest is Fulton Evich. So for those that have been dreading having to pronounce that last name in the business, you'll have a reprieve at least for a few weeks. He gets sent down to Gwinnett, and I don't think that's a sign that Fulton Evich is done. I'd be shocked if we don't see him back in a Braves uniform, Atlanta Braves uniform, at some point this year. But he was just really struggling his last few starts. That makes everybody wonder who's going to start on Friday. I have no idea. Nobody seems to have any idea who's going to be the starter on Friday. Andrelton Simmons is out again today, should be back tomorrow. He hurt his hand on a bunt attempt a couple of days ago. Alex Wood will toe the rubber today, and hopefully the Braves will play some better baseball.
Mm-hmm. Did he stay out of the outfield today, shagging fly balls so that he didn't get hit upside the head again?
Yes, well, he wore a hard hat, so I think he's okay.
Good.
No, Alex is fine, and Alex has really been one of the more consistent pitchers. Since Julio Teheran has really taken a major step backwards this season, it's got to be somebody other than Shelby Miller. We know it's not Fulton Evich for the time being. Williams Perez has been a pleasant surprise, and Alex Wood has been very solid as expected. So that's the good news for the pitching front.
Mm-hmm.
Now the bad news is Teheran and a miserable bullpen. So you kind of have to work around that if you're Freddie Gonzalez. I think I made the analogy with you yesterday that for Freddie Gonzalez, it's like being at the blackjack table at the Harrah's back in Council Bluffs, Iowa. Phil, it's you got 16 every time. You got to make a choice when you're Freddie Gonzalez. Do you hit or do you stay? And more times than not, it's going to be a loser anyway. So that's kind of been the thought process for Freddie when it comes to the bullpen.
You bring up very fond memories of your days in that casino because you cracked the code. You cracked the code of that particular casino.
That is the only casino I've ever won money at, and I have lost several dollars at several other casinos. So the Harrah's in Council Bluffs, Iowa, always has a soft spot in my heart.
Well, tell me this: as far as Julio Teheran is doing, what is he not doing, and what is Williams Perez doing that has made him a surprise?
Well, I think in the case of Perez is lefty, and Perez is the unknown. And I think for the time being, he's using that to his advantage. Everybody's got an advanced scouting report on guys now, but I don't care what you say. Until you see them, there's only so much a computer printout is going to tell you. You still have to see him. And right now, he's just kind of baffling guys. He doesn't have electric stuff, but he's been good. He knows how to pitch, and he's been scrappy, I would say. In the case of Teheran, when you've been a guy who relies on a hard fastball his whole life to get people out, and then all of a sudden that fastball is not so hard, I think that's a period of adjustment that he hasn't made yet. People say, well, you don't have to throw hard. Look at Greg Maddux, look at Tom Glavine. They're in the Hall of Fame. Well, they didn't throw hard for the majority of their careers, so they didn't have to make an adjustment this early on in their career. That's what Teheran is being asked to do, because he's no longer throwing 96, 97. He's throwing 89 to 91 on his fastball, and that puts a lot more pressure on those secondary pitches. And so far, guys are just teeing off on the fastball, and they've been able to stay alive with his breaking ball and his changeup.
Mike, thanks very much. As always, we appreciate it. Mike Morgan with our Braves report tonight. Braves and Red Sox at Turner Field.
So Mike said you have to see the player. So hacking into somebody's information doesn't do you any good, I guess.
You mean as far as scouting a player?
Yeah.
Is that what you're suggesting? No, I think seeing the player is probably most important.
You know, I'm talking about the hack.
Yeah. All right, to the recruiting report on this Wednesday night. Wide receiver Larry Collins Jr., Lower Richland, will be in Chapel Hill Friday night for the Freak Night gathering of prospects. Has nothing to do with the academics at North Carolina when we're talking about Freak Night. This is strictly a football thing. So these guys aren't going to get degrees just by showing up for Freak Night on Friday night. Just having a little fun there at Tar Heels' expense.
Oops.
Tar Heels are one of the offers for Collins, who attended USC Showcase Camp last Saturday. And he got some encouraging words from Gamecock receivers coach Steve Spurrier Jr., who told him that he did pretty well and has good hands. He has USC and Georgia high up on his list right now, but would not call them a top two. He also likes Louisville. No decision till after his season. Offensive lineman Will Putnam, Harrisburg, North Carolina, said he's not going to visit USC for a second time until next week. He's going to Virginia Tech for a second time tomorrow, and he'll be at Freak Night on Friday. 2017 defensive back William Poole III of Hapeville, Georgia, was to be at Clemson today. 2016 quarterback Cade Sparks of Fontana, California, visited Clemson today. Defensive back Devron Davis, Merced Junior College, California, went to Colorado State officially last weekend. Liked everything there. He's been in touch with USC, spoke with recruiter Lorenzo Ward on his way back from Fort Collins, and he said Ward wants him to come out and see South Carolina as well, and he doesn't know if he will do a visit in December or in the summer. He's also looking at Arizona State, Nebraska, and Oklahoma for official visits. Nebraska was his most recent offer. Defensive end Tony Clayton, 6'6", 218, Vienna, Georgia. He is a very heavily recruited player. Almost all the big boys have offered him. He was at Clemson Sunday. He's also been to Tennessee, He's going to Georgia Southern tomorrow. Very impressed by what Clemson showed him. He has the Tigers at the top of his list right now. And he really liked the relationship between the coaches and the players. Spent a lot of time talking with Brent Venables and Marion Hobby about their needs on defense. And the Tigers gave him this message, quote, "There was a tremendous need for me there because they don't have any D-ends coming in. I can just go there and start playing." So apparently they feel a little thin at the defensive end position. Clemson, Florida, Georgia Southern, Tennessee, and Auburn for now are at the top of his list. Tight end Charlie Werner from Tigger, Georgia, has a top three. Georgia, Alabama, and Clemson standing out for him right now. Oregon is also involved. Linebacker T.J. Brunson, Richland Northeast, was at Georgia Southern for a visit today. And in basketball, 6'6" Durante Jenkins visited USC over the weekend for an unofficial visit. He's the former Lake Marion High School star who's been in Orlando at a school there. USC has not yet offered. Clemson, Indiana, Central Florida, South Florida, Wake Forest, Utah are among his offers right now. Top of the hour break here on Sports Talk.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
And we're back. It is Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us once again on this Wednesday night. It's Open Mind Wednesday. Don't know what that means. Didn't want to say open lines. I like saying open mind.
Minds, yeah.
We're open-minded for your calls, open-minded for your opinions, your thoughts, your comments, your questions, your criticisms, whatever you got. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com. And on Twitter, it is @sportstalksc. We can ratchet up the football talk a little bit and start examining some things a little more closely as we head into the heart of summertime here. I guess officially we're not in summer yet, right? What's that, June 21st?
20th, I think.
Yeah, a couple more days officially be in summertime. It feels like summertime, of course. And want to start getting ready and excited for the football season. I think we've got a lot of things to look forward to here in South Carolina. I think that Gamecock fans are not even going to say cautiously optimistic. I think Gamecock fans are more maybe like they were 4 or 5 years ago, maybe early in the Spurrier tenure. I mean, excited, but they don't have the expectations high. There's no talk of a SEC championship by any of the football analysts, no talk of an SEC East championship. The Gamecocks are going to start the season off the radar, which I think is absolutely perfect for them. Start the season off the radar, surprise some people early on, win a couple of games, and then have one of those 9 or 10 win seasons where you look back and go, that was a really great year. And build on that and develop some young players. You'll have a chance to have a young quarterback, whether it's Connor Mitch or Lorenzo Nunez or even Michael Scarnecchia. You're going to have a chance to have a good young quarterback developed. And then with Brandon McElwain coming in 2016, a guy who is obviously got a lot of talent, and they've got a chance to develop some quarterbacks for the next several years, to set them up in good shape at that position.
Before you got in the quarterback thing, you know who you were describing? You were describing Missouri.
Yeah.
Because they came out of nowhere. They had a couple of young quarterbacks they were grooming at the time when they got in the league, and everybody said, well, they'll have to catch up in the league. Then, of course, they had a ton of injuries that first year and lost their shirt. Last 2 years, they represented the East, not too well, but at least they got to Atlanta. And so
the time South Carolina got to Atlanta, they didn't represent the East very well either.
No.
Of course, they ran into a juggernaut,
Well,
Cam Newton and those Auburn Tigers.
I will say this. They were into that game until the Hail Mary. I think the Hail Mary right at the half killed them. I mean, any fight they had in them was taken out of them when that Hail Mary hit right at the end. You almost knew that was Auburn's time at that point.
Yep. All right, we'll be back. 800-956-7266 is the number. All right, back with you on Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. So do you think South Carolina is going to be a surprise since they're off the radar? Are they going to be a surprise? From a Clemson standpoint, they're not going to be a surprise. Clemson is off nobody's radar. They're on everybody's radar. Still being picked to finish second in their division behind Florida State, but they get the Seminoles at home. They have the kind of schedule that if you win them all, you've got a chance to – you will be. There's no doubt. You win them all, you will be in the college football playoff. You lose one and win the rest of them and win your league, you're going to be in the college football playoff. They got a chance to do that. I still – my biggest concern for Clemson is replacing the lost players on the defensive side, and I still question a couple of players on the offensive line. Can Joe Gore hold up at right tackle? Because if he can't, can Isaiah Battle do the job at left tackle? Because if he can't, you're talking about having to throw first-year freshmen into the fire. And I know they're highly touted, Mitch Hyatt and Jake Frew Morgan and guys like that, but they are still true freshmen. And, you know, it's hard to dominate as a true freshman offensive lineman the way you need to beat teams up. So the Tigers still have a lot of weapons on offense, of course. So they've got plenty of bullets in the gun offensively. Defensively, I still have some questions about the second group. First group looks really good on paper. Will the linebackers be a drop-off from last year? That's possible. I don't see how it can't because they lost some really good linebackers. And I don't see how this group can be as good as the ones they lost. I don't see how their defensive ends can be as good as the ones they lost, especially when you lose one as good as Beasley. Secondary looks pretty good for the most part. I don't know about the punting game. You know, they lose their punter who's going to be a starting punter in the NFL right off the bat with a guy, you replace him with a guy who's never punted before in a college game. So, you know, that's a bit of a question mark. So these things have to be considered. Bradley Pinion was a terrific weapon for Clemson because he had that great knack for the coffin corner kick and pinning teams back. Is Clemson going to lose that edge in that particular phase of the game? Something you have to consider when you analyze a team. So Clemson, if they win a bunch of games, if they win 10, 11 games, that's not going to surprise anybody because they're going to be season ranked in the top 10, maybe top 15. And why is that, Pro? Because they've got that shiny quarterback. They got the quarterback that glows, and that gains you a lot of preseason hype. Analysts. Now the question is, does the rest of the team live up to it?
Well, as I said before, they lost some very talented people on defense, and I still go by what I said before. The most valuable guy on that field that created the most havoc for everybody else to make plays is anytime you looked at Clemson on TV or if you're in person, Grady Jarrett was always in somebody else's backfield. Whether he got there or not, he was a nuisance because even if the quarterback got out of a pass rush, he was somewhere clogging up an area and they had to step around him because he created penetration. Anybody will tell you a defense, if you have a tackle and ideally both tackles have instantaneous penetration, you just about destroy right up the middle. You just about destroyed an offensive play right there. So it'll be difficult, very difficult to replace him because I think people underestimate that sometimes when you say a player is too short, that means his center of gravity is low and he has better leverage on the player he's playing against, even if he's taller. And I think Grady Jarrett used that to his advantage. So I think it's going to be difficult to replace him on that defense. And we'll see how they get penetration. If they can get penetration early like they did last year, the defense will be decent, but not as incredible as it was last year.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number here on Sports Talk. We've got open lines for open minds if you want to join us on the program here on this Wednesday night. And wanted to look at Clemson's upcoming football schedule for this season and take it game by game kind of analyze it moving forward. And
the first part is a little bit of a warm.
well, I know they've got Wofford and Appalachian State, but don't sleep on those two teams to open up the season. I mean, that's got to be Brent Venable's worst nightmare to open up against a very good triple option team, a team that runs it as well as anybody in the country, regardless of the level that they're playing at. We know how tough Wofford can be, and we know that they can put a scare into anybody. And you've got to spend they've got to spend a lot of time getting ready for that. And then you get Appalachian State coming in, and we know what Appalachian State has done to teams in the past. Then they go to Louisville on short notice for a Thursday night game. And a very talented offense with a quarterback who can throw it. Of course, they lose their really good receiver from last year, but that's going to be a hyped stadium, very loud stadium to play in under the lights on a Thursday night. It's going to be a very tough game for Clemson to win. I mean, that would be, that'd be tough for any team to go into on a Thursday night and win at Louisville. I don't know. Do you give them to win there? Do you say they're 3-0 coming out of Louisville?
That's a toss-up game, but the carrot thrown in front of them is the fact that desperately you do not want to go win your first conference game and get a loss, and then early on walk into an open date and have 2 weeks to think about it.
And then have Notre Dame coming up.
Exactly.
After that. You look at Louisville and you look who they have for the Tigers this coming year. Of course, they lose Michael Dyer off of last year's team. Their top running back returning is Brandon Radcliffe. Their quarterback, remember, he was the freshman that had to play because Will Gardner was hurt. Reggie Bonifon, and also they have Kyle Bolin. And I'm not sure which one coming out of spring is going to be the starting quarterback. They might still have some competition going into the fall. They lose their outstanding receiver, Devontae Parker. In fact, they lose their top, 3 or 4 receivers. They have to replace, from a starting lineup standpoint, almost entirely their receiving core. They lost their tight end, Gerald Christian. They lost starting receiver Matt Milton. They lost another receiver, Eli Rogers. These are all seniors. Devontae Parker. They lost a ton of. From that standpoint, Louisville is going to be struggling in terms of replacing. They lose 4 starters off the offensive line. So this make that 3 starters off the offensive line. They lose a left tackle, a left guard, and a right guard. So a little bit of rebuilding job there on their offensive line. Maybe Clemson's defense will have a chance to match up pretty well with this defense, with this offense, considering how many seniors they lost off this offense.
Well, the defense got to be ready because this is the second year for Bobby Petrino, and he still loves to throw it up. I don't care if he puts his 5th string quarterback in there, he's going to throw it up. So you got to be ready for that. Ideally, if I'm Clemson, as I said before, Nick Saban, LSU, he gets the job. He sees Wofford on the schedule, get him off. I don't want to deal with my defense playing against an offense they're not going to see too often. And everything I teach them after the next game, I have to tell them, forget it. We got to go to this. See, if I could shift the conference schedule, I would have moved Georgia Tech in where Louisville is.
Oh, because you would have already practiced
against the option, and then I played Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
As it is, you got to go on the road a period of time between games and play a team that likes to throw it all over the lot, which is very, very different from what Georgia Tech throws at you or Wofford. So I don't know, a young defense adjusting and you have to play that option. I don't even know if they're going to work on the option that much until the game week. I really do think.
One thing about Louisville's defense, they do lose the outstanding defensive end, Lorenzo Malden, and a couple of others, but most of their defense, which was great against the pass last year, returns. back after a little dead air there. Apologize to the stations for that. We're back with you here on Sports Talk for a little brief segment here because we missed the return cue there. But we're back and talking about Clemson football. By the way, recruiting note here. Remember the kid I mentioned in the recruiting report, Devron Davis, the defensive back from Merced Junior College? He's now committed to Colorado State after visiting there this past weekend. He announced a little while ago that he is committed to Colorado State. So I imagine he's going to shut it down and not take any more visits, but you never know.
Well, Mike Bobo, if he has any sense, he'd be recruiting Georgia, South Carolina, and some of the other areas right now that's over 100, and say, guys, I'm with you. I'm indigenous to this area. I've lived in this area, born and raised. And boy, you ought to feel how cool it is in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and start pulling players out of the South to come.
Except they're not going to Colorado Springs. They're going to Fort Collins.
Fort Collins, that's right. Well, it's near Colorado Springs.
Fort Collins. Yeah, I'm sure it's a beautiful place. Back on the Clemson schedule for a moment before we hit the break, and then we'll continue to talk about that. After they play Louisville, they get Notre Dame. After a week off, they get Notre Dame. So, they're going to get hit with very strong part of their schedule after that opening against Wofford and Appalachian State. They're going to run into a very tough part of their schedule, and we'll dissect that and move forward in a moment. we're back. Sports Talk, 800-956-7266. Lines are open if you'd like to. We're talking football as we look ahead to the upcoming season for the Tigers, which, we feel like is going to be a year where the Tigers have a chance to do some really good things, and a lot is expected of them, a lot of hype on Clemson football, and because they have the quarterback, they have the weapons around him, but as we've been talking, the schedule gets kind of tough. We talked about the Louisville game, the possibilities for that on a Thursday night. Of course, we know historically Clemson's had its issues on Thursday night. Only recently, I'm trying to remember what the number was. They'd lost 7 in a row or so on Thursday nights before they won one. Was it last year, 2 years ago? They finally won on a Thursday night. So they've had some problems on Thursday nights, and going to Louisville is not going to be an easy task at all for them. They'll be facing a fired-up Louisville team. But then what about after that open week, getting Notre Dame coming to Clemson? And
well, it's still October 9th, so maybe get those Irish down there, and it's still – we've got a little touch of that South Carolina heat still waiting for Notre Dame when they come down to play them. But I really do think Clemson is going to be fired up for this game because, Dabo has made inroads even into the Northeast, and a lot of Northeast fans. He's plucked a few gems out of the Northeast in the last couple of years. They're going to be fired up. That's national TV game material. Yeah, and I think they'll win that game and could win it big against Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think win it big?
I believe if they get fired up in there and it starts to snowball, they can beat Notre Dame. Now, if Notre Dame stays in the game, watch out. Mm-hmm. That's going to be the key. And again, all goes back to those lines of scrimmage. And that's the key for Clemson. They got to win the lines of scrimmage to beat Notre Dame.
All right, so let's just move on here. Louisville, Notre Dame, you see the Tigers being 4-0 at that point, 3-1 at that point?
3-1.
Losing to Louisville?
Mm-hmm.
I could see them losing to Louisville. I could also see them being 4-0, but let's go with the loss to Louisville. They're 3-1. They get Georgia Tech after that at home. Well, they'll be well prepared for the triple option after having played Wofford. But, Georgia Tech's a really good club, too. You're talking about a team with an excellent quarterback who, this is not the Georgia Tech team of a few years ago that really struggled at quarterback. And even with their terrific running game, had a terrible defense, too, remember. But they struggled at quarterback. Not right now. They've got an excellent quarterback, but playing at Clemson, this is really – when you look at Clemson's schedule, the Georgia Tech game is really a home-and-home sort of thing. Georgia Tech has a hard time winning at Clemson, so I'll go with Clemson to win. Then they get Boston College at home. That should be a win for them, so we're looking at a 5-1 start, which I think you should be happy with that if you're a Clemson fan, 5-1 start. Then you go down to Miami. And last time they went, Miami won 5 years ago. And
they don't have was Duke Johnson this time?
No, he's gone. But they do have a good young quarterback in Kaya. And you got and Miami has started to refurnish
rebuild that defense.
Well, I'm talking about some of the offensive weapons.
Yeah,
you lose Duke Johnson, but they've started to replenish, I think that's the word I'm looking for, replenish the weaponry on the offensive side in terms of the speed and the size at wide receiver and the skill positions. So you figure if Clemson can't win at Louisville, can they win at Miami?
Yes.
Because?
I still don't think Miami is all the way back in the defensive line of scrimmage. And I think Clemson's offensive line will have some bruises under their belt by that time and probably be better than they were at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I will say this. I do think even though you have the shiny quarterback, Clemson has enough weapons in that backfield where even if you lose the season, give them a break. I mean, if you can shove it down a team's throat without throwing a forward pass, do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, nothing demoralizes a defense and a team than see a team go 80 yards on the ground. There's nothing you can do about it, and just watch the clock tick, especially if Clemson has the lead. And I think at some points in the season, Dabo has to think about that. You know, you got the quarterback that can throw it, but if you can just grind it down somebody's throat, do it.
Miami, they return all their receivers except for one, Philip Dorsett, of course, who's headed to the NFL. But they've got Herb Waters back, Stacy Coley's back, Malcolm Lewis is back, Braxton Berrios is back. Their tight ends are back. Offensive line-wise, they lose a couple of guys, so it's kind of a mixed bag there, but they do have some starters back. Yeah, I think you've got to be concerned about Miami's offense. And then defensively, looks like they lost about half of their starters on defense. They do return some in the secondary and a little bit up front, and their linebackers, they do lose Perryman and they do lose Armbrister. They're two starting linebackers, or two of their three starting linebackers. So, you know, it's kind of a mixed bag on defense. I think Miami's going to be a very dangerous team for Clemson to play down there. But I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. You know, the reason I think the Louisville game is so tough is because it's a Thursday night.
Yeah, that's primarily why I'm picking.
Yeah, and so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt here on Miami and pick Clemson. So that would make them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 going to NC State. Back-to-back road games, Miami and NC State, 6-1. You know, NC State, boy, they were awful against Clemson last year. They were playing so well, and then they go into Clemson and just totally lay an egg. They were completely dominated by Clemson's defense. Nobody was probably happier to see Vic Beasley graduate than Jacoby Brissett, because that game, Beasley and the rest of the Clemson defense just hounded him into submission. He was playing good ball until that game. He's back. But I'll go with Clemson at NC State.
I'd agree. You have to watch yourself, because NC State in the first few years under the new coaching staff are schizophrenic. You hope the bad NC State team shows up, because at some point you thought they were a threat to win the ACC in some games. In other games, you slap them in the mouth, they wouldn't show up, which would happen last year in Memorial Stadium. So I think it would be a game for these 3 quarters.
All right, I'm going to skip Florida State for a moment and give them wins at Syracuse, Wake Forest, and at South Carolina at this point. So that makes them 10-1. And now Florida State, I mean, that game, of course, they've already lost a game in their division to Louisville. No telling what Louisville will have done since the game against Clemson. But then the Florida State game, it might very well be the game for the division championship. I don't know. With Golson there and typical Florida State athletes and overall talent, I don't know if Golson certainly offsets Deshaun Watson. Any advantage Clemson might have had at quarterback is probably offset by Golson being across the way on the Florida State sideline.
It'll be interesting. The big thing, the big negative for Clemson in this football game is the fact that Florida State, Golson had weeks in his playing time that he would have figured it out by now. If you can get him early in the campaign, like in the first month when he's still trying to figure out the offense, would be different. I almost see Florida State going to a almost 2-quarterback system early until Golson gets it completely, and then they kind of evolve into him playing most of the football game.
Florida State's got some rebuilding to do now. They lose 4 starters on their offensive line and their outstanding tight end, so they're going to be new up front. But you know with Florida State how good they are with their talent level, and they've got good players waiting to play. By the way, just heard from Darian Davis, who tells me that even though he committed
Well, he's not committed.
Well, commitment means different things to different people. So anyway, back to Clemson, Florida State. I'm having a hard time pulling the trigger on a winner here. I think
Clemson
I'm going to give it to the
won last
Tigers.
year.
I'm going to give it to the Tigers.
Yeah, they should have won last year.
So if Clemson's going to win 11 of 12 games, and logically thinking here, why shouldn't they beat Louisville and be 12-0?
Early. We talked about the earliness of it and Thursday night.
Yeah, I know.
It's all in the timing.
Yeah,
so
I get that.
So I'm thinking Thursday night and at Louisville, that's the danger point. It's going to be early. And let's face it, there were times last year in any big season, you got to have some luck involved. Boston College does not drop that pass. Clemson loses that game last year in Boston. Mm-hmm. Lady Luck has a way of getting retribution, lack of a better term, or the scales may bounce out. So you got to watch out where a trap game is. And to me, that's an early trap game. Because you would have subjected your defense, your young defense, to what? 2 option teams, and suddenly you go into a Thursday night game with a team that likes to throw the forward pass all over the place.
Appalachia's not an option team.
No, I was thinking they played.
Wofford, they play App. Then they played Louisville, then a week off, then a Notre Dame, then Georgia Tech.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there were only one option team you'd be faced with. That's why I'm saying I'm not so certain that if I'm Brent Venables, I don't start working on the option to game week. I'm not going that defense preseason talking about we got to play Wofford. Mm-hmm. And no, you would mess that defense up.
So anyway, back to what we're saying. So we got the Tigers 11-1. Is that what we agree? Do you have them beating South Carolina?
No.
Oh, so you don't have them 11-1.
I think that's a toss-up game. I really do.
Well, we're not doing toss-ups here,
No,
toss-ups are for salads. Okay, we're picking winners.
No, here's the man that always, when the season starts, what is the kick man?
Hell
always
no!
A
I
toss-up.
pick games now. I quit doing that.
I don't know that habit pops
so
up.
Give me a pick: South Carolina, Clemson.
I think at home, South Carolina, because I really do.
Gamecock.
I really know. Now I'm thinking that defense is going to be salty at that time. It always the end.
I
of the
think
season,
the Gamecock defense is
they're going to be a.
I'm going to say this.
Defense.
I'm going to say not only are they going to be good, I think they're going to be real good. I really do. I think they're going to be wipe that smirk off your face, Steak Man, before I reach over there and pull it off.
I'd just like for you to define really good.
Really good. I think there'll be I'll say this. I will get you a Snickers bar out of the machine.
We're going big now
because it's
peanuts and all. Huh?
It's only 60
Caramel,
cents.
chocolate.
It's only 60 cents in our machine. All right. So I'll bet you a Snickers bar that at the end of the season, 12 games, USC in total defense
in the Southeastern Conference.
No. I'm talking nationally. I'm talking nationally.
Oh, okay.
Nationally, will be ranked in the top 35.
Okay, and that's a really good defense for you.
Well, they were 90-something last year. I'm talking about an improvement of 60 places. Improvement. I'm not saying they're going to lead the country in defense. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be really good. When I look at and what makes me feel that way is I love the incoming personnel. I love some of the attitudes. They got some guys that are coming in or talking smack already. And I think they can back it up. I think Ulrich's going to be a good addition right in the middle of that defensive line. Don't forget about Dante Sawyer. We talked about Lewis. And the thing that I hang my hat on with them, besides the younger guys being improved, they're bringing in older guys from the get-go, guys who already are men because they've been in junior college or they've been in prep school. They're a year older and a year or two removed from high school. They're older.
Isaiah Johnson, the safety.
Isaiah Johnson, Dexter Weidman, assuming he goes to class. So, I think they're not only going to be improved. Of course, it's easy when you were 90th last year. If they just improve the top 50, that's going to be a major improvement. I think they're going to top that and be inside the top 40.
Here's the big thing. The big thing is Hope comes in and he simplifies things. Now, I know a lot of it was personnel last year, but let's face it. When Clowney was going and everything, I think Whammy and personnel turned the football game into brain surgery. And he had the guy stand up, but wait a minute, who was supposed to be here? They complicated two things too much. And a lot of guys miss tackles because they're thinking where they're supposed to be.
All right, just a couple more minutes to go here on Sports Talk, and we've got some breaking recruiting news. For those of you who follow this, as soon as I put my my hands on it here on my laptop, this is Parker Boudreaux, the offensive lineman from Orlando. Here we go. The offensive lineman from Orlando, who is like this guy. He's got over 25,000 followers on Twitter. This is a high school stinking offensive lineman.
Is this the nation's number one you were talking about?
Well, he's got like 80, 100,000 offers. Everybody's and their brothers offered him. Anyway, he has announced his top 5 schools. Yes, he's cut it down to 5. This is what I'm talking about. He's cut it down to 5, and oh, heck, it looks like he's done it in video form, so that's not going to do me any good.
That's why he's got all those followers. He probably does videos to try to draw attention. See, a lot of people try to troll for followers, right? Because they do all kind of weird
hashtag
things.
stay humble.
Well, let me tell you, Clemson is one of the 5. All right, I can tell you that. Give me just a second here, and I'll see if I can
You said he's from the Northeast, correct?
He's from Orlando.
Oh,
Yes,
down
that's
south,
the Northeast,
yeah.
Northeast part of Florida. Yeah.
Thank
Or
you.
Central Florida. Northeast, Central Florida. Clemson's in the 5. Here it is. Clemson, Oklahoma, Florida, Notre Dame, and Georgia Southern. Yeah, there's a connection there with Georgia Southern. I think a coach. So really, he's got a top 4. I mean, no sliding Georgia Southern, but really.
Like the triple option. Yeah.
So Clemson, Oklahoma, Florida, Notre Dame, Georgia Southern. Those are the 5 that he has announced. He has visited all those schools. So Clemson's in the hunt. This is the guy that, if you look at a picture of him, he looks like that wrestler.
Which one?
The big,
There's a lot of them.
Blonde,
Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah, one of them.
Passed away recently.
I don't know. I don't think it was him. I don't think it was him. But
Ric Flair, young Ric Flair.
He had
that wrestler, the generic wrestler. We should all know.
Yeah. Anyway, Clemson's in the 5, so that's good for them. I wanted to say this before we leave and get ready for the Open. Looking at pictures of that course, that is going to be an ass-kicking of a course. I predict
nobody will break par.
Exactly. I think the winning score is going to be something like +5.
Probably.
This course.
Didn't they have a course some years ago? Nobody broke par.
Oh yeah, it's happened before. The USGA sets these courses up typically to be so tough, and then you throw in the difficult nature of this course that the two combined. It's going to be. I'm going to love it. I want to see it be brutal. I want to see these guys play like me on a regular Muni course. We'll see it tomorrow night here on Sports Talk and see how it goes. Thank you, Pro, Steak Man, and everybody else. We'll see you tomorrow.